Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is our series where we have a look at everything 3D printed for Blood Bowl. Whether it's teams, star players, big guys, stadiums, dungeons, if we can print it and we can use it for Blood Bowl, we're probably going to have a look at it. Now, what we're going to be looking at today is the second part of the Pirate Orc team from Punga. Punga love their pirates and they love their orcs and I love their orcs. So let's have a look at their part 2. Okay, so the part 2 of the Baorcuders, I guess that's how you say it, of the Sea Orcs, the Punga Sea Orcs, that's what we're going to go with. Okay, part 2, we've got 4 Goblins, we've got 4 Big and Blockers, and we've got 1 Blitzer. So 9 new players, they all come pre-supported, and we're going to have a look at the pre-supports. I've already printed off every one of the models, and we'll have a look at the scaling as well as we go on. But this combined with part 1 of the team. Now, part 1 came with the Troll, 2 Throwers, 4 Linemen, and 1 Blitzer. Now, at this point, we've covered almost everything that you need for a Blood Bowl team for Orcs. The way Punga and now Ugni and Brute Fun do this is they do a part of the team, and across 2 to 3 months, the whole team is fleshed out. Now, at first, there was a bit of resistance to this. I am actually massively supportive of this. First of all, those Patreons that put out a team every single month, it's an awful lot to keep up with. And actually doing it this way gives the companies time to sculpt, do great work, and gives us a time to actually print them and check them out. So actually, I think the tempo is fine now. With this team, you've got all the pieces, but you are technically down to Blitzers. But the beautiful thing about 3D printing is if you've got part 1 and part 2, you can just mirror both your Blitzers and you will have everything needed to max out your Orc team. Now, when it comes to Punga, they might do a month 3 with a couple of extra Blitzers and some star players and things. That seems to be how they do things. If they go that route, I will be super happy with it because actually, I know maybe they'll do a pirate Goblin Bomber or a Pirate Varag, something like that. And you know, there's Ripper. We haven't seen Punga do a Ripper yet. There's a lot of stuff that they could do, and a month through would be really cool. But for now, we've got enough to build a full-on Orc team. So let's have a look at the Stls. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is the second Orc Blitzer. So there's 1 Blitzer in this pack, and this is him. So originally, when I saw the model kind of from their previews on their Patreon, I thought it was going to be the captain. Ooh, that's the wrong way then. We want to go to here, and that will give us a better shot of the model, I think. There we go. Let's do that. I thought this guy was going to be one of the captains, but this is actually the second Blitzer. Now, the first Blitzer had a very dapper hat in the last release, and this guy has continued this. This is just full-on Captain Hook, which is amazing. You've got the pirate lapels, you've got the big old coat, and you've got the wig, which just makes me incredibly happy. You've got the cool hook hand there. So this is just pure pirate, right? And I think it's brilliant. They've committed to the pirate theme for this Orc team, and well, we'll get to have a look at the 3D prints in a minute. It actually comes out green paint on a green screen, not so useful. It comes out really well, and something that I'm really happy with these Punga sculpts is that there's plenty of detail there. If you want to dry brush, if you want to use contrast, there's height for you to pick up on, but it is not flooded in detail so that it is going to get stressful for you to paint. So I'm actually really happy with the level that they've put into their models so far. Okay, so that's one of the that's the other Blitzer for this one, and let's grab some of the blockers because they are definitely some of the coolest models that they've done in their releases recently. I'm really pleased with what they're doing with their blockers. Let's see if we can zoom out a bit. Control A. This is quality content. There we go. Let's do that. Now we can zoom in on each of these models. So welcome to the 4 big and blockers, and they've done a really good job mixing up their styles. The guy with the 3-point stance is very cool. We've got the face mask on this guy here, which is reminiscent of the kind of the Forge World expansion pack, I think, for the Orc team. But blended in with all the pirate stuff. So you've got the big boots, you've got the sash belt bit, and this guy, when we saw the previews, I thought this was kind of all going to go the direction of Oh, Palazzo's Lost Legion kind of style. The Conquistadors, this Conquistador hat. But actually they've got that, and then they've got this guy on the left-hand side who just straight up looks like an orc. But you've still got that pirate theme. You've got the high boots, and I do love the 3-point stance guy. I think is very, very, very cool. So these are all the Black Orcs, the big and blockers, if you are better than me at remembering the new positions in this team. So you got 4 great sculpts, you got some punch bags, you got some different poses, and I think everybody's got plenty of feet on the ground for you to glue to, which makes me, again, very, very happy. Now, there's not an issue with the scaling. If you look at these guys here, they are basically about the same size as the Line Orcs and the Blitzer, so that would normally be fine. These guys are strength 4. The Blitzers on the Orc team, they're big burly bruisers, right? They're there to blitz, they fight, so it's not a terrible thing for them to be about the same size. The difficulty is when it comes to great third-party teams like this, where you've got so many unique sculpts, you might want to make sure that your size is disparate enough so you can tell which guys are the Black Orcs and which ones aren't. So when it comes to us having a look at the 3D prints, we can kind of talk through that, but this is the stage at which you're going to want to be changing that scale to get something that you're happy with in the team. But the sculpting is pretty great. We've got 2 of the pirates here, 2 of the pirate goblins, and I mean, the Johnny Depp goblin is brilliant. He should have a jar of dirt. I know somebody put that in one of the comments, but actually I love it, and this is just wicked. There was a company, Black Scorpion, who do pirate goblins, pirate dwarves and stuff like that, and Punga have absolutely nailed it. These guys look just exactly, they've just got it exactly right. If you said, yes, and close your eyes and imagine a pirate goblin, literally perfect. So they've done a great job with that. They've got some great little poses for the goblins, and I'm really happy with that too. So you got 4 goblins, which is probably more goblins than you were going to need. But we're creative people, right? What we've got here now is a flipping Black Orc team as well as a straight up vanilla Orc team. Because you've got all those great Orc sculpts that are about the same size. So with a bit of flexing of scaling, you can have a mixture of 6 different Black Orcs. And you've got 4 goblins there, and you may have to mirror a goblin, but Black Orc teams, you kind of only have 5 goblins tops anyway to get you to the 12th player. And you've got a pretty meaty looking troll as well for this team. So if you've got the first 2 parts, not only are you going to end up with a Black Orc, with an Orc team, okay, yeah, you're going to have to mirror some blitzers if you want to run the full capacity, but you've also got the flex then to run a Black Orc team as well. And again, you might have to mirror a 5th goblin if you want a 5th goblin, but you're good to go, which I absolutely love. I think that's just awesome. And again, you've got 2 very piratey goblins. Love the sideburns on the guy on the left here. Now, what we've said about the detail, it carries over here as well. There's plenty of little details kicking around. You've got stitches, you've got damage to the clothes, you've got buckles and little belts and stuff like that, but it is not an overwhelming amount of detail, which again, I'm really happy with. And I know that guy's hand looks massive, but it really isn't in person. So these are all provided, and they are all provided fully supported as well. One thing I did find with the supports, and we've seen this a couple of times from Punga, they support to be as effective as possible. You will not get a failed print with a Punga pre-support. But the Punga pre-supports are pretty chunky, and I was not as careful or as diligent as I should have been taking them off, because I tend to pre-support my own stuff, and when it comes to the Punga models, I will always pre-support my own models and use light supports where I can, just so you get that very ever so satisfying ripping, tearing noise as your little tiny pre-supports come off. The Punga pre-supports are good, you will get prints, they will print, but you will use quite a bit of resin with them, and you may have to be a bit careful taking off. So this feather on the hat here, I imagine, oh, it did survive. That's all right. But you know, you can get a little bit of a bit of damage sometimes where these supports are as big as the detail that they are supporting. So your mileage may vary. Oh no, in fact, the supports are just on there. Okay, well, I've got his ear, and he's got a couple of bits of tubes. Again, they're pre-supports, so they're good to go. If you want to print this team immediately, you chuck it straight on there. If you want to spend a little bit of time supporting it yourself to minimize resin waste and to maximize your detail, then you can do that too. the point is, I printed them out. They all worked fine. You just have to be careful taking the models off. And that probably segues us to have a look at the models themselves. Okay, so the first model we're going to have a look at is one of the pirate goblins. We've got a couple of different ones to look at as well. I've printed these out on, I can never remember if it is the Mars 2 Pro or the Saturn 2 that I used for these. I think these are the Saturn, actually, with standard settings. The base is from my mini factory. If you want to know where I got it from, put it in the comments and I'll share the link. But it fulfills my need nicely. And I figured, as a lot of the pirate Punga stuff is on a boat, that actually I'd get a bunch of them and print them out. Now, I have printed, glued them to the base, given them a prime with white, and then because in one of the videos we did the other month, you guys were like, yes, please use contrast to show off the details. So I picked up Garagax Sewer. I was using Wildwood, but Garagax Sewer is a little bit brighter, and I thought actually does a good job of getting the details on there. And if I'm going to be painting a pirate team that is orcish, then a brown base is not a terrible way to be. Anyway, we can see here that the model has come out nice. We've got lovely sculpting, lovely print, and all the details come off quite nicely. Now, again, I used the Punga pre-supports here, so you can see there's not a huge amount of damage anywhere that I could see. You've got to be careful with any kind of pre-support, but I was really happy with the model, really happy with the print. Now, we've got a second goblin here as well, which I think is worth looking at. You can tell from my hands I've been painting today. So let's bring this goblin into focus. There we go. And he's got his hat over his eyes, which is cool. He's got a great little pose there. And again, a nice little a nice coating of contrast sets him up really nice for a good bit of painting. Now, we want to look at the scale, right? That's the most important thing when you're looking at Blood Bowl minis, is do I need to tweak the scale? And we're going to bring up Grot Brady here, our strength 2 Black Orc Goblin, and let's compare the goblin size. Alright, actually, height-wise, we're good to go. Mass-wise, as we kind of flip them over and have a look around here as well, again, I'm actually really happy with the scaling of these guys. For a goblin, he's not massive. He is not, like, obviously slight. These goblins are not obviously small. So when you print them off, they might look a little bit smaller than you'd expect. And if you wanted to, you could up the scale a little bit. But when you bring them up and pop him next to a Black Orc Goblin, they're a little slighter. But they are also a little taller because they've got, well, as it's very obvious, a slightly different kind of sculpting style. So actually, I wouldn't worry about the scaling for these guys. They work pretty nicely. So that is the Goblin. What do we do next? Let's grab the Orc Blitzer. Ooh, getting some focus shine there, aren't we? Let's see if we can fix that magical. Okay, so for this guy, I have used a different one. I think it's Astra Militarum Green or something. Yeah, Militarum Green. Because I thought, again, orcs, green is going to be good. And I just wanted to slap a bit of contrast on to kind of show the detail as you print it out. And this green is okay for using, like, if you're painting army stuff. Not great for orc skin or anything like that. So I would probably stay away from the Militarum Green. I'm losing my focus a bit today. Let's go manual. Let's go out a little. And let's leave it like that. Okay, so size-wise, we did the orcs last time, and the scaling was actually pretty great. It worked pretty nicely. And that was when they were all blitzers. If you put him up against a Black Orc, size-wise, he's a little bit smaller than the Black Orc. Black Orc's hunched over. This guy's hunched over a bit. It's not noticeable, and it is not terrible. He's good to go. What I did think, though, now we've got access to the Black Orcs, is comparing him against a Strength 3 piece, this is a blitzer. He is bigger than a Strength 3 human. But it doesn't really matter. I'm actually really happy with the scaling of the orcs. But as we kind of look at some of the other players, so we're going to bring in a selection of the big and blockers here. So this is one of the big and blockers. Again, I used the Militarum Green on this one because I thought I'd try it out, to be honest with you. I've done a terrible job, as ever. But I thought it was quite a cool way to get the model's details out and on show. So we've got one there. We've got the cool hat guy using the Sewer Brown, which I think is a really lovely tone. And this is what I'm probably going to use for a lot of my base painting now, because it brings out a really nice kind of earthy bit. And again, you can see the details magic, and this is going to create a really good base. The face detail is really nice, and when it comes to the Punga sculpts, it really pops. And that's kind of what you want for a game. You're playing kind of looking a foot across, 2 foot across the table, having that kind of, having the details, the key details pop out is, I think Contrast does a really good job of just kind of showing you that. I like this. This guy is very cool. You got the eye patch, you got the detail, you got some chainmail there. There's plenty of textures to pick out if you need to, but they will blend into the model if not. So these guys are your strength 4 pieces. So we are going to compare this guy here to the Games Workshop Black Orc, who is strength 4. So from a size point of view, the Black Orc is a bit bigger. He's not a bit bigger, but he's a bit more massive. He's got bigger shoulders, bigger back. I mean, when you put them toe to toe up against each other, there's not a huge amount of mass in it. This guy is a little bit smaller, and he's a little bit thinner, but this is kind of a bit of a thick boy sculpting method. So as they kind of scale up, I mean, it's fine. One thing that is really important to look at is the difference in size between the Black Orcs. Oh god, I'm going to struggle with this. The big and blockers, and your standard blitzers. And I think they're absolutely fine as they are. What I would want to do if I was running this team is either tick the blitzers down to 90% or take the blockers up to 110%. Now, it's not a massive jump, but it will be big enough so that you can easily see which ones are blockers and which ones are blitzers. Because if you rock these out and said which one of these is a Black Orc, which one of these is a big and blocker, and which one of these is a blitzer, I don't really know. Like this guy, because he's kind of got the big punchy hand, would be fine. But actually, when it comes to third-party sculpts, especially ones that are all unique, because let's face it, like we kind of, the gold standard for these models is, could this be a star player? Could this be your star blitzer? This guy here, 100% could be a star player, because he's just an awesome pose, awesome model. I would say Goblins are good, your linemen are good, your blitzers are good. The big and blockers, they deserve to be big and blockers. So I would probably tick these up to 110% to give you that real kind of whack. Now, I'm not done. That is all of the part 2 that we're going to look at, but bringing the troll in here, like I said, you can put together a Black Orc team really nicely with this, and I hadn't considered it until I started filming this video, because I'm like, oh, I love orcs. Orcs are great. As you know, I've been playing some Black Orcs on Blood Bowl 3. You take the troll, you take a myriad of your Black Orc, myriad of the Orc players, whichever ones you like, you scale them up to 110%, you use them as your Black Orcs, and then you've got a variety of crazy little pirate goblins on there as well, and you kind of max out what you want. So even though there's kind of 2 stages, or there's 2 different sections of this team, and potentially a third one coming with more blitzers, you're good to go with a Black Orc team right now, and quite frankly, you're good to go with an Orc team right now as well. It just means you're going to have 2 of these guys mirrored, which again, not the worst thing in the world. And what did I do with the blitzer from the first team? And this is your other blitzer, and you'll have 2 of him mirrored as well. They've got funky hats, they're good to go. I don't think it's a problem. Now, I would like a couple more blitzer sculpts, but realistically that's all the team is missing. So if they drop that next month with some star players and stuff, I'm going to be really happy. But if not, we're good to go for a Black Orc team and a Orc team just with a couple of mirrored players. And compare that to the Games Workshop team, I'm just, yeah, we're good. And there you have it, part 2 of the Sea Orcs from Punga. I actually really love this. I know that the pirate theme can get a little bit tiresome, but they've executed this brilliantly, and I'm a really big fan. Each one of these sculpts is really good. Like, each individual sculpt is really good fun. And that's kind of rare. This is not just a team for the sake of being a team. This is not just a pirate team for the sake of being a pirate team. This is a really well-sculpted pirate team. If this landed as part of a Kickstarter, it would have a massive splash. So, in that regard, for 2 months worth of a Patreon to get the STLs for this, awesome. And if you are backing Punga, you are good to go with those STLs. If you don't have a 3D printer, you don't have the STLs, these by the time this video goes live, will be available on the Bonehead podcast shop as well. So we are selling the prints for Punga. Now, they will be the pre-supported versions by myself, and the options that we'll have is the Black Orc one with all the Orcs scaled up to 110%, or the Orc team with mirrored blitzers and 110% scale big and blockers. It's a really cool team, and I promise you that if you get it, no matter how little effort you put into painting it, if you put it on the pitch, your opponent's going to look at it and be like, that is a cool team. Nice job. And really, guys, what more do we want? I'm a really big fan of this. I know the pirate stuff is like, oh, more pirates, but this is just, yeah, they've done a good job with this one. So a big thumbs up for me. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll be back again soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy printing. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.